Okay, hi guys, welcome back to the shop. Hey, last time we filmed, we took care of some scratches that were in the top of the 57 Chevrolet. They went down to the bare metal. I sanded them out with some 400 grit sandpaper and took it down to the bare metal. There were 2 or 3 layers of paint on here prior. The top looks real good, even though there's a couple of layers of paint on here. The top looks real good, and we took those scratches out, and what we're going to do now is just kind of go over the top of this with 600 grit sandpaper and get her ready, get her prepped for paint. So everything looks good, everything's sealed up now. We want to prep this for paint, and we want to make sure that we don't sand through. Make sure that there's no rings or anything like that, because what happens is when you go to put your top coat on here, it can and usually does, wherever you sand through a ring, break through a layer of paint or a layer of primer. In some cases it will usually swell that up. It'll leave a mark, and a lot of times the mark won't come out. So what you want to do is make sure you don't sand through the layer, but you want to give it a little bit of feather it in, take some of the rough overspray stuff off, and give it a little bit of tooth, a little bit of a bite, so the paint, the top coat, will stick to your primer. So that's what we're going to do. And we've got some 600 grit sandpaper that's been soaking in the bucket here for 5 or 10 minutes. We're going to use our sanding block. Sure you use your sanding block. And the reason we use a sanding block is to keep our fingers out of it. You've got a nice smooth surface to work with, and you've got a nice smooth surface right there, so let's keep everything nice and smooth. So we're going to put our sandpaper in our sanding block, rinse it off one more time, get a little water on there, which also acts as a lubricant, and then just in nice circular little motions, what we're going to do is just kind of feather this stuff, take some of the rough overspray edges off, or not edges, but the overspray that's in this area, which is kind of rough and gritty feeling. See how that loads up on there? And what you do with the 600 grit sandpaper is you rinse it off, kind of clear that paper out, and then you got a nice surface to work with again, and go to town. And I always sand in circular motions because that just kind of, it's better than going in linear direction. Now if it was, say like if we were working on a body line or something like that, it would be a linear motion, but this isn't. So we're going to do it like this. Okay, we're going to remove the sanding, the residue that's off there. Now, they make, there's a couple of ways to do this too. You can use a paper towel, you can use a towel, you can use whatever at this stage in the game you really want to wipe the residue off. They make, you can use a squeegee, another sanding block, or they make these rubber squeegee things that work kind of handy. But if you take something like this, this also works well to kind of get that residue away from the you know, what it is you're working on, and just kind of centrally located in an area, and you can rinse it off, or you can just take your towel and wipe it down. So we've got this area. That's our first round. We'll see where we're at. We'll kind of let that water dry off. We'll look for any funny things that may have not shown up before I started sanding, where that where the primer, where those scratches, deep scratches were, and sanded out. And it's perfect. It looks just great. So what I'll do now is go ahead and just kind of finish sanding. That area is good. I've got overspray back here. I'm just going to go over the top again real lightly, make sure that everything's all nice and smooth, all the overspray is gone, that we've got a nice clean surface that we're working on here, which we do. And then the prep work for the top is done. Then we're ready for top coat and clear coat, and that'll be that. You know, another thing I'll mention while I'm thinking of it is I have plastic down here. The hood has already been done. The fenders have already been done. And I have plastic down here, and I have paper up here. And there's a reason for that. After this stuff sets for a while or two, and here's a prime example of this. Here is some plastic. See how this is real important. See how this stuff flakes off? Because we painted this, we primed this 2 or 3 days ago, and it's been shrinking up and setting. But see how the primer was on this plastic here, and see how that's flaking off like that? See all that flaky right here? Well, see, when you go over the top of that with your top coat, and you blow that pressurized paint gun over the top of that, it's going to blow this crap off, and it's going to end up right in your fresh paint job. So you've got a paint job that's going to be, this area here is going to be ruined. There's a hunk of it right there. So I usually always, and in this case, and that's a prime example, I usually always use paper on these areas here, because the paper doesn't do that. See, it'll stick to the paper, it'll stay stuck to the paper, and that won't happen with the paper. But it will with the plastic, and you can ruin a paint job in a heartbeat, just like I showed you right there. Here, it doesn't matter, because I'm going to untape this, we're going to retape it up again, and surgically clean for top coat preparation when it gets to that time. But that's an important thing. I've learned this lesson the hard way. So heed my advice and try not to let that happen to you. That will make you mad.